Alright, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rain. Alright, so today I tried to look decent. Bobbler, come here. So the bobbler is messing around a lot with my tripod. So this is your punishment. And great. So the camera is probably a little crooked. Let's show you this. Alright, hey guys. So today we're gonna get a little down and dirty. I thought I would do a story time. I haven't done a story time before, but I thought, why not? Let's spill all the tea or whatever it is. I prefer coffee. I don't like this. So throughout my life at this point, I am 23. I've had a few roommates, multiples at one point, but for the last like 5 or 6 years now, I've been living with my husband along with other roommates. So let's start. My very first roommate was in college, and it was in a dorm. This one's not as much of a horror story, but it's just my first roommate experience, as it is for like many people, I guess, maybe? I don't know. Just not my type, not my personality type. All right, next. So my next roommates weren't really that bad, but they were bad experiences, just a bit. Alright, so my second roommates were right after college, my first year of college. I moved down to North Carolina to move in with my husband. He already had an apartment with 2 of his guy friends. So that was a bit of a situation. They weren't necessarily terrible roommates. They were cool or whatever. But, you know, living with 3 guys is kind of like a lot. So I moved in, you know, everything is good. And I think one of the worst experiences living there was when I went away for about maybe a week or 2. But I had been gone for a while, and I was doing like, I mean, like a lot of the cleaning before I had left. So yeah, like they would sort of clean up sometimes, but it had never gotten really bad. So I had left for a week or so. It might have been almost a month. When I came back, the time I came back, I took the bus back. Nobody was home at the time. And so I just came in or whatever, and I was putting my stuff away in our room, which was before, like, it was like our room, living room, dining room, kitchen. So I put my stuff in our room or whatever, and then I like go to grab something to eat. Thinking like, great, it's so nice to be back home. And I go in the kitchen and it stinks, first of all. The trash is filled to the brim. And there, in the sink, there's like hundreds of maggots. Hundreds of maggots. So, you know, like it had to have been bad for a while. So I'm just not understanding why it got to be that bad. Like, was nobody ever in the kitchen during the time that I was gone? I find that highly unlikely. It was disgusting. And then I ended up having to clean it out because I'm not just gonna leave maggots in the sink. So I had to like look up how to like kill maggots and handle the situation. And like it was so gross. And I was basically so mad after that, and everything else was bad in my eyes. They weren't very clean people. They were just kind of like loud and playing video games, and like it was sort of just like a weird experience to begin with because I didn't know any of them, but my now husband was like really good friends with them and had known them for I think like 2 years now. But they just weren't great people in general. Like the 2 guys were pretty cool. Well, one of them was pretty cool. The other one was kind of like just an asshole person. And then yeah, So after them, third experience with a roommate was that we moved in with another one of Andrew's friends from college, a girl this time. And I mean, she had come over a bunch at the last place, so we were kind of cool. Like, I knew who she was. We weren't particularly like friends or anything, but we were cool. We would like hang out sometimes, the three of us. But this is honestly probably one of the worst roommate experiences I've had, more towards the end. Well, no, actually the whole time. This is a terrible roommate. She, like, let's call her X. X was probably the most unkept. Like, I really don't like talking bad about people, but she just did not take care of herself or her body or her, like, anything. She kind of was just, like, a gross person. And, like, she would eat, like, full bags of candy and, like, just treat herself nastily. She had really bad teeth, and she just like stank sometimes. Like, there was an upstairs to this apartment, and when you went upstairs, it was the two of our rooms right next to each other. Sometimes her room would smell like something died in it, and it was just literally unbearable sometimes, and I wouldn't want to like go upstairs because it just smelled so bad. And like, she would just like take her stuff and have like no respect for our stuff. Just one instance was, we had this you know, like a regular like fold out like lawn chair, not a lawn chair, but like something you would take tailgating or something like that, one of those chairs. And she would just take it and use it whenever she wanted without asking, which we let go of. We were like, you know what, fine. It's a chair. Like, we don't really care that much. But then we would be like, can you like not just leave it outside on the patio, because like it might rain and that'll like ruin the chair, and it's our chair, so just please don't. As a matter of fact, we shouldn't have even had to explain why. She was like, we should have just been like, please don't leave it outside. End of story. Because she kept leaving it outside. And so even after we said that, she left it outside, and of course it ended up storming while we weren't at home at the time. When we got back and our chair was ruined, and it was a pretty expensive chair. I mean, it wasn't like expensive, but for our price bracket, it was pretty expensive. And so she just honestly didn't care. She didn't apologize. She didn't say anything. She didn't say, oh, sorry, I accidentally left the chair out, or like anything like that. And so that kind of took a turn. Then she would just like leave doors open, because she smoked, so she would go outside and it'd be cold, and she would just leave doors open. She would like take our stuff, like if we had like we have candles, like just little like things that she would just take and like have gone missing that we've never seen since then, and we never said anything about that. And she would also just like eat all of our food and then like not care. Like, we bought literally one of those huge box variety of chips for ourselves, because we're a BJ's member, and we just buy like the whole huge thing of chips just to have for a while. And she literally ate half of them. Like, I'm not exaggerating. She ate half of them, did not care. I went in there, or no, my husband went in one time looking for like, let's just say Cheetos. And my husband was like, oh, there's no more Cheetos. And X and I were in the living room. And she was just like, no, I ate all those. And like, I just don't understand what goes through people's minds where they're like, yeah, that's fine. That's a normal thing. It's not. Like, no, it's not your food. And then when we moved out, we moved all our stuff out, like, in time, and we finished the night before we were supposed to be out, like, that day. She was still in there with all of her stuff in the kitchen, like trying to clean up and do some final cleaning and move out stuff. And like, we made sure we all had all of our stuff, even though like a bunch of our stuff was missing. We just kind of packed up and left, and it's like 1 in the morning while we're finishing, and she's like, oh yeah, I got the rest or whatever. And it was her stuff, like her trash and stuff that she still had while she was moving out. And she's like, okay, I got that. And then we move out, okay. We don't really talk to her after that. And so we get mail from that apartment complex saying that we're getting charged. And she texted us like maybe a week later being like, there was still trash juice left over and you left 3 bags of trash and this was here or whatever. And we were like, you specifically said that you would get that stuff up. Also, it was your trash. Like, we're not your trash men. Take it out. Why would you leave it there when you knew that we had already left? So she never gave us that money back, and she never really talked to us again after that.
Now, and one thing I realized I forgot to say about X is one thing that really disgusted me was that later on my mom had bought us a new microwave, and my mom went to her and was like, I hope you don't mind, I'm getting this new microwave, because it was her microwave that she had brought. And she straight up tells my mom, you know where I got that microwave? A dumpster. She got the microwave that we had been using for months at that point from a dumpster. Be careful what you eat and what you use. No.
So after that, next roommate started off really good. To sum it up, me and her became friends through like working together. We were like really cool, really close. We would hang out all the time. And we got a really nice apartment together, the 3 of us. And everything was going absolutely great. She was great, I was great, things were working out perfectly. Then, one day, okay, she was younger than me, and her mom and her family are kind of like well off. And so her mom helped her pay like her rent and like for her car and stuff. So she kind of depended on that, but she was also kind of rebellious. So she was really working a fine line here. So one day she did something and her mom decided to stop helping her pay rent, which was kind of high for like what she was making, and she kind of like didn't want to work in a way that would give her more money. So once her mom wasn't going to fund her rent and stuff anymore, she kind of like flipped a switch and kind of attacked us, being like, oh, the living room is always messy and I can't stay out there, so it's not fair that I'm paying this much rent. Which, we had the master bedroom and our rooms were about the same size, if not for like maybe 4 inches, and we had the master bedroom. We were paying around $200 more than she was, and she never said anything about the living room before. It wasn't unlivable like she stated it was, but that's how she came at us. Not, hey, I'm having a hard time paying the rent because my mom isn't paying it anymore, or hey, could you guys like maybe keep the living room cleaner, or hey, I'm having a hard time, or anything like that in a compassionate or like a she needs help sort of way. She was like, you guys keep the room messy and I can't use anything in this apartment and I'm not paying this much anymore. Yeah. She also locked her bathroom, which was also the guest bathroom, quite often. So we weren't able to use that guest bathroom for our guests, but we didn't say anything about that. Yeah. Basically, the rest of living there was super awkward because we went from being really good friends to like not speaking and like sort of ignoring each other when we would pass each other, and it was just sort of a weird living environment after that. You'd think we'd learn by now. But this guy I thought would be cool. I'd hung out with him before. I had also worked with him, but longer than I did the girl. And, you know, we hung out, we went out all the time, and we still needed help paying for a place, and it just so happened that his lease was ending, and he also needed somebody to live with because he had bad credit. This roommate was just a weird guy. He was really cool, and like, we were pretty good friends, even though I guess at some point he didn't consider us friends or whatever. Anyways, what happened was, you know, we were living together. He gets a girlfriend, and then she starts staying there all the time to the point of where she's living there. she's home maybe once a month, which was like 2 hours away, or an hour away. So she basically lived there, even though he didn't want to admit that because whatever. But, you know, it wasn't all of them. At some point, we did have my husband's sister move in with us to live in that space next to our room. But just for a little while. Because she had just moved down to North Carolina and was looking for a job and stuff like that. So, after a while, you know, things were cool or whatever. First of all, she started dog sitting at our house. At our apartment. Mind you, this roommate is not on the lease because his credit is bad. So we wouldn't have been approved if he was. He's not on the lease. He brings his girlfriend in to basically live there. Didn't even say anything to us about it ever. Didn't ask, didn't mention, didn't say anything about that. She just kind of stayed one day and never left. Then she started dog sitting. You know, which I didn't mind except for the fact that when she was dog sitting, first of all, when she was dog sitting, we had to leave the bobbler in our room, which sucked for her because she was used to being able to go wherever she wanted, you know, besides their room. And so we had to close her in the room because, first of all, we didn't want the dogs coming in our room, and then we didn't want, like, the bobbler was scared of the dogs. She had never been around dogs, and they were big dogs. That would, like, kind of chase her back into the room, and she was terrified. And she would hear them barking, and she would basically just be terrified all day while we weren't there. Mind you, she also didn't ask if it was okay that she brought dogs into our apartment. And so yeah, that went on for a while. We didn't really have that big of a problem with it, even though we didn't like it. Again, with the dogs, at one point, she would just leave the dogs at our apartment and not be there to watch the dogs. She was getting paid to watch these dogs, but she would just be out wherever and leaving these big dogs at our apartment. Meanwhile, one of them almost escaped when we got home and they weren't there. And also, one of them, like, knocked over a lamp. So we, at that point, did say something and was like, you need to be at home watching these dogs if you're going to watch these dogs. And we called and, like, asked where they were, and they were like, yeah, we're almost back or whatever. But it was completely irresponsible and, like, completely just, they had, like, no regard for, like no consideration for the fact that they never said or asked if that was okay. Fast forward, Andrew's sister, my husband's sister, is still there, and the roommate eventually says something about it and is like, I think that she needs to pay rent because she's living here. At that point, you know, we were like, okay, fair enough. So we sort of worked out a deal where she would pay so much, and we sort of adjusted all of our rents. And then he had said something else later down the road, and we were like, well, your girlfriend lives here as well. And his response was that she doesn't live there, she goes home, and that it's not a stable thing. So, like, they're not as stable as we are, being people who are married. So she could leave at any time, so she doesn't live there. We were basically called him out on his stuff and was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. She's been here for months now. And things were just super awkward until we moved out. So after that, we moved here to Philadelphia, and now we live on our own, and things are wonderful, and I'm loving it. Moral of the story, roommates can be terrible. They're stressful. They could not clean, and you have to clean up their mess. Well, you don't have to, but if you want to clean an apartment and they're not doing it. But not all roommates are bad. All of my roommate experiences have kind of sucked, but they're not all bad. I've heard people say that they have good roommate experiences, and that's good for them, but always be wary. Even when it's your best friend, living together can crush a relationship. I lost two of the people who I considered my good friends because we live together, and like stuff just doesn't work out well when you live together because there's just so much in living together. So definitely be careful, have more set rules, set boundaries, things like that if you're going to get a roommate. And just know that things might not work out because living with somebody is very complex. But yeah, if you can live on your own, I would highly suggest it. I love it. My mess is my own. It's all I need to worry about. I don't need to worry about anybody else paying rent. I know that my rent is paid, and it's me, the bobbler, and Andrew. So thank you for watching. Check out my other videos. I bought a microscope, so my last video is about that, and I checked out this nasty face. Next video, I don't know what it's gonna be, so stay tuned. Like, subscribe, watch, do whatever you want to do, if that's what you're about. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. You're so pretty.